economic outlook. Pavitra, the Ministry of Manpower have recorded a total of 24,000 workers who have lost their jobs between January and April alone. And these figures could still increase as wave of the layoff still continues. Now, in your opinion, how serious is the layoff problem in Indonesia lately?
So we have series of problems that creating the tension on the industry that eventually leads to layoffs. First, as we're seeing that the cost of production is getting much more expensive. In terms of the rupiah depreciation, is already also contributing to the tension in the purchasing manager index in manufacturing. For example, this last year, we have 5 consecutive months in contraction in PMI, one of which coming from the rupiah depreciation. Also, we are also seeing that this year, the rupiah is also under tension, particularly coming from the global tension from the Trump tariff that's executing depreciation even more. So from that side, the cost of production from the input side is actually quite overwhelming for the last 1 year or so. So as a matter of fact, since last year until February or April, we're already experiencing a 96,000 of people being laid off. So that is coming from the input of production, all the capital goods. Also coming from another part, which is actually productivity. We are also seeing that this is not only happening just last year, but it's also this is already happening for years, yes, since over a decade. So the productivity level cannot match, yeah, the cost of production coming from the labor side. So if you compare between the labor productivity with the wage of the wage of labor is increasing over time, but the productivity level is quite stagnating. So in a way that it is actually creating a cost push tension that allows the industry, domestic industry, to reallocate themselves not only within the region from Jakarta, Banten to Central Java, but also to outside of the country, such as Myanmar, Cambodia, and also Vietnam. So in a way that we need also to tackle the issue from the upstream. So we need to invest more on the skill side to increase the labor productivity in order to match with the industrial needs, and in a way that the increasing cost of industry coming from the wage is in line with the productivity level. So that is from the domestic side. We also seeing that the global tension that I also mentioned to you earlier that also affecting the cost of production. Also here, we're also seeing that the global demand is being affected by the increasing global tension, especially coming from the Trump tariff. With the global demand shrinkage, so most of the industries, yeah, especially the labor-intensive industries that are aiming for the global market, they're also seeing that the market is a bit in a constraint. So therefore, we are also seeing that several industries they need to close down their factory because the global demand is not very doing very well for the increasing tension on the global side. So both side, either the domestic side and also the global side, is actually creating an enormous tension for the domestic industry, Mbak Luisa.
Well, there seems to be so much tension in our economy, and it's not just happening here in Indonesia, but as you mentioned just now, it is what's happening globally, and it seems to still be prolonged for now. You have already explained the main factors that is causing the layoffs just now, but I'm just curious now that the government is preparing the establishment of this special task force to handle the rising dismissal of our workers. Do you think that this establishment of a so-called task force will be effective to prevent more layoffs from happening, or do you think this seems to be somewhat redundant?
I'm saying that this is the one that we need, yeah, because the Ministry of Manpower, they cannot actually do this alone. We need to have collaboration across ministries. So in a way that this special task force is the one that can connect several ministries, then can also intervene in a very quick manner. So I'm saying that this is relevant. It's not redundant. And then this team should be the one that map, yeah, the issues, and also coming with the possible policy intervention that can help not only the Ministry of Manpower that but also the other ministries, because the Ministry of Manpower is just in the labor side. We also seeing that, for example, the Ministry of Industry, Ministry of Trade, Ministry of Agriculture, also serving as the sectoral ministries that is actually very important, yeah, to create the so-called good environment in domestic economy, so that this will also create upcoming investment. So with the investment coming, this will also create jobs and so on and so forth. Not to mention that we need also some kind of the fiscal intervention, yeah, short-term fiscal intervention coming from the Ministry of Finance, because to tackle the short-term problem for the increasing job layoff this year. So I'm forecasting a possible of under 150,000 of people being laid off this year, and then it can be increasing up to 200,000 of people, because we are also seeing the tension coming from the tariff trump, and most of the sectors that are being affected by the tariff trump are actually labor intensive sectors, such as, for example, electronics, furniture, CPO, fisheries, textiles, and also footwear. These are actually the very sectors that involve so many workers. So we need to protect these industries so much so that we will actually defend the industries against the massive layoff this year. So coming back again to your question, the special task force is very important and relevant. It's not redundant, because we need a sectoral ministries collaboration. It's not only Ministry of Manpower, so we need another third party to connect and to collaborate these ministries so that they can work together to overcome this overreaching problem.
Where there seems to be a lot of tasks that this task force will need to do in the very short future. In your opinion, what should be the priorities that this task force should be dealing with the layoff problem, and how to make, like a result that we can see in the near future?
So I'm saying that this task force is just an ad hoc. So as the ad hoc team usually operating, they're usually trying to find the short-term solution, yeah, for the upcoming problem. So what are actually the short-term problem for the massive layoff? Of course, the unemployed workers themselves. So we need also to create the upskilling and the reskilling ecosystem for the people that being laid off, and then we need to push the flexible transfer, yeah, from one sector to the other sector, so that this massive layoff won't be actually a burden for the economy. That is actually for the short term. We can also use the lesson from the Hartz reform, yeah, in Germany in early 2000, when they are actually trying to make a massive ecosystem, a comprehensive ecosystem from the upstream to the downstream for the workers, so that we're having a more stable worker employment in the future. For example, what happened in Germany, they're also trying to increase the intervention in the upstream. Therefore, their skill set is actually matching with the one that is needed in the industry. So with that coming with productivity, as I mentioned to you earlier. So, but this is only happening in the long run. But we need also to take care for the short-term problem, which is actually short-term solution, to mitigate the effect of the lay off this year. So these people need to be taken care of. Yeah, they need to be, put in a living ecosystem so that they can actually try to maintain their skill set and upgrade their skill set, and also to move from one sector to the other sector in a more flexible manner. Luisa.
Good point right there, Pavitra. Now, many labor-intensive industries have been forced to lay off their workers for being able to compete both in domestic as well as international markets. What can the government do then to revitalize the industries and make them more competitive? And you mentioned about labor transfer just now. What can they transfer to in the near future that is possible to create more job markets in the industry?
Okay, so we need also the industrial intervention. So the president just several weeks ago mentioning about the trade policies, import quota and local content requirement. So ironically speaking, when we have the local content requirement in place, so increasing over time, this is creating less competitive ecosystem for the industry. So I'm having a series of empirical study that is actually mentioning that our local content requirement policy, which is actually now reaching 35%, is creating the not it's not industrialization but deindustrialization in a way that this local content requirement is not allowing us to get a cheaper input of production. Yeah. So, for example, in textile industries, when we cannot have a cheap input of production and the capital goods and also other kind of stuff that is needed for the industrial production, so the end product, the pricing won't be as competitive as our country fellow in the ASEAN, for example. We cannot compete with China. We cannot even compete with Vietnam because of the pricing is not competitive. Why? Coming back again to the input, yeah, to how to gain the access of input cheaply. So because of the local content requirement, you cannot get it cheaply. So ironically speaking, with the local content requirement, is actually creating more tension to the industry. So much so that the president several weeks ago, as I quote, the president is trying also to liberalize the local content requirement in order to. One thing is to have a comprehensive negotiation with the U.S. So that's for sure, because this is also a concern from the U.S. trade representative. But to the other POV, I'm also seeing that this is a momentum, yeah, to fix the industrial and also the trade policy in order to make it more competitive. Not to mention that we have also import quota. That's actually quite constraining the industry to participate in the regional and the global production network. So as much as we can actually push the industry and we can push the industrial competitiveness, we can also create jobs. So that's actually the way to do it. More to mid-term to the long term, but this is actually the roadmap that we need to take.
A long way to go. But thank you so much, Pak Fitra Faisal Hastiadi, for your insights on our economic outlook in the near future and what's to be done for the long run. Thank you so much. We'll have you back again on the show next time. Thank you.